This is my personal computer. It's in the Corsair 4000D. It's got a 5950X, 3090 Ti, 64 gigs of memory, some M.2s, maybe one SSD, and it's got the Arctic 240 AIO. Runs fantastic, never had an issue with it. I've been rocking this case for a couple of years, probably a couple of months after it came out, and every iteration of this build from an i7 8700 up until now, I've been using this case. This case works great, it's efficient, great airflow, so I'm going to just do the right thing and try another case that I don't know much about that might make it worse and possibly ruin my gaming experience. But it might look pretty, and I might put some RGB in it, so let's see what happens. So before we get into the case that I am going to be using, I kind of want to do a little bit of a baseline to see what kind of improvement or non-improvement I get. So I'm running for a mark Cinebench R23, been running these tests for about an hour, and let's take a look at my temps. So now for my CPU temps, we're at 67.5 degrees Celsius, and my GPU 71, 72. That's the highest I've seen. It's kind of hovering around the 65 for the CPU and around the 69, nice, for the GPU. So good temps, and honestly the fans are not even going full bean, so that's pretty nice too. Now when the Hyte Y40 came out, I liked the style of it, but I didn't like that whole little side thing, that little, I don't know what you call it, but that little side little panel thing, three-dimensional, whatever. I didn't like that look. But then they came out with the Y40, a little bit smaller, and it just has the whole two glass panels instead of the whole thing over there. So I decided when this came out, this is the case I want to use. I really like the look of it. I mean, some might like it, some might not like it, but I think it's pretty cool. My only concern is, am I giving up my cooling performance compared to the Corsair 4000D? Now let's unbox it. Instructions. Now the look is not bad. Kind of reminds me of a fish tank or an aquarium or terrarium or whatever it is. But I kind of like this whole see-through inside right over here. That's pretty cool. And the biggest thing is that it has a PCIe Gen 4 vertical mount, so that's kind of nice. Got a power button, speaker, 2 USB, and a Type-C. Pretty good, especially I've been using this a lot. See-through, nice open airflow on the top. And kind of the same thing over here, so I kind of like that you can kind of see the other side, so that shows me that, I mean, it's not going to be restrictive even though it has a mesh on it. I really like this design over here. Some may like it, some may hate it, but I think it's pretty cool. So now with the back, you're really committed to the whole vertical mount thing. But the good thing is that they give you 4 slots, so if we have enough clearance with the motherboard, we can bring it in over here. I know my 3090 takes up 3 slots, so we shouldn't be choked off by the glass. Hopefully. And then you got these half slots. I believe you could put in those low profile cards. I've seen people do it with the Elgato cards and whatever, so that's nice. What is kind of different about it is that typically you have the thumb capture screws and you have to unscrew it, but this, everything snaps off, which I like that, but then I kind of hope those pieces don't wear out in the future. Plenty of mounts for cable tie. Could definitely put our 2 fans over here. I'm going to go with 2 140s right over here. We'll talk about the fans we're using. Comes with a fan on the bottom, but from what I understand, these fans are pretty crappy and cheap. We'll take a look at one of them. So for our connectors, USB, kind of like that it has the whole front panel connector. Makes life a lot easier. Yeah. Very simple and clean front I/O. And one thing I wish case manufacturers would do is why use the whole color thing? Just make them all black, and that would just match the build so much better. And as far as our fan, yeah, got a 3-pin, so that fan will be going. And I think that talking to a lot of different people that have purchased this case, or even looking at some of their reviews, that's one of the things is that it's a real nice case, well built from what I've been reading, but why use such crappy fans? I mean, an extra couple of dollars might be worth it. Let's see what they gives us in here for our power supply, splitter for headphone, audio, all that good stuff. Yeah, a bunch of extra screws. Yeah, a bunch of extra screws. Not bad. So much like the back, this thing just kind of pops open like that. So it looks like we could put three 120s on the top, which, talking to some people, apparently you can put a 360 in here, but there's some Dremel action or something that you have to do. I'm not doing that. I'm going to use my 240. It's more than enough for what I got, and that should work perfectly fine. I kind of like this over here because typically, you know, getting into those cables right over here, you run out of room. So now you got kind of room to get those connectors that you can't reach. So that's actually well thought of. Let's pop this out. So let's get this foam. Yep. So this is kind of cool. We'll have to take this out, mount on the motherboard, and then this will kind of mount in to our PCIe slot. This fan is going to come off. I mean, it looks like a pretty cool fan. I'll take it out. We'll get a more in-depth look on it. But, you know, the whole 3-pin. And we got provisions here and here to run our cables. So I think this is going to be very cool. So our front glass has 2 screws here and here. And from what I gather, I think there's another one on the back over here. So if we needed to take this out, but for the build, I don't think that we're going to need to do it. Well, there she is, all disassembled. So what are we going to do with it? I am keeping my 5950X. I'm not upgrading anything in this computer. The 3090 Ti 5950X runs fantastic. Yes, there's the 40 series, the 7900 X3D had just came out and all that stuff, but I've been editing and gaming with this rig, and I've ran into no issues. So to spend the money is not worth it in my opinion. I'm just kind of doing this just because I just need a different look in my life, and this will fit the needs. And I decided to do something a little different. We'll talk about that in just a second. 2 things I will be adding to it is, number 1, I am upgrading this because a viewer sent this to me. Thank you so much. Viewer reached out and says, hey, I got an extra one. You want it? So I greatly appreciate that. So this is the RM1000X. So I will be adding that to my build. And then I purchased these. So this is a cable extension. I've actually used this from Fast Gear. I've never had an issue with it, and all I'm going to be doing is kind of extending it because the whole connectors that come with the card are a little too short. It looked a little tacky, but with the extension on it, I can kind of tuck them in through here depending on where the card lines up, and I think it will look a lot cleaner on that one. So I'll show you when we get to that part of the build. Now that everything's shut off, you guys seen me take this computer apart a bunch of times, and there's a bunch of videos of people taking it apart. So on the count of 3, 1, 2, 3, we'll have this thing in a million pieces. 1, 2, 3. And just like that, everything's taken apart. So motherboard, case, fan, GPU. I'm actually gonna leave the power supply in here because, well, got another project lined up for it, and I think my brother wants this case. Not sure yet on that. So I am going to be doing one little upgrade to kind of get me like 100 more frames per second. I'm sure you know what it is by now. So let's kind of take a little bit of a road trip and show you what we get. All right, so I need fans. So I think we're going to go with a 3-pack of ARGBs, and I want to do 2 140s for the front. So go with this and that.
Oh, that's really nice.
Should be good.
Get a close up on that.
I know that case is nice. I like this one. This would be like good for the kid.
Looks like Legos.
Lego case.
Yeah.
Now here's the fun part. Is there anything else I might need? Power supplies, headphones.
Alright, hear me out.
Sometimes you gotta behave yourself and just control yourself because impulse makes you want to buy things. But I'm here for fans. I'm here for fans. Ooh, bunch of X570 Asus Tough 160. That's actually pretty good. I really like those motherboards. I had one for a while. Let's see some of their cool builds they got over here. Oh, I just love the way that looks. That looks pretty sick. I just like the simplicity of this one. I love this Be Quiet case. Had it for a little bit, but a little too small for what I needed. This build is pretty cool. Age of Empires theme. I really like that one. It's got RGB, so you know it's got more frames per second. That is freaking awesome. Alright, sweet. So we got 3 140s, which I only need 2 of that. 3 120s, so I'll put 2 on the top, change my fans on my AIO, and that should work. And I think it'll be good. And also put 1 in the back, and then I'll have an extra 140. Cool things about these, they daisy chain together, plug right into the motherboard, and the daisy chain feature is freaking awesome. So let's get back and let's get to work. So now let's remove these fans. Now I want to slide this in just like so. Probably the best thing would be to do is to take out the riser card, but that would make sense, and well, I'm not good at that. But this seems to be working. So let's take off this connector and slide this in. It's got a nice click to it. Let's put this back in. Now, one thing I like is this opening right over here makes it a lot easier to put in these CPU power connectors. So now I'm on to the 2 140s on the side over here. So if you look at it, this connector, definitely not good. So the solution I temporarily came up with is if you push this fan up against the glass, yes, it's going to be off-centered, but it allows this connector to tuck in there. It's not tight, it's not pushing in, so it does work. What I will be ordering, and maybe I'll do a follow-up video on that, or just a follow-up short on that, is I'll probably get a right angle adapter, use that, and that will actually clear this, and then these two will match up. For now, just to complete the build and get my personal rig back up and running, that works. So if you're going to use the 2 140s, yeah, definitely consider getting a right angle adapter, because that's not working. So I did a bunch of work off camera. Got this fan in, these are done, and I kind of explained a little bit of that. And I got my 240 up here, and I'm kind of torn on which way I want it. Do I want it towards the back, towards the front? I mean, you got the provisions, but I found if I put it towards the front, it just looked really empty. So I don't know. I guess it's going to depend on how the graphics card sits, because right now where the cables are, they'll rest on top of the graphics cards, which I don't foresee that to be an issue, but just kind of going for the best look, more or less. Now, a couple of things I will say about this case is that I really wish it had the grommets that they used to have. It kind of hid things and cleaned them up better. I mean, it's fine, it works, but that would have been something to do. So let's get the graphics card in, and that will kind of determine if I'm going to leave my AIO right over here or just move it towards the front. It's not too bad. You definitely got room for the front. So, I mean, this is a thick card, and I could imagine with a even thicker card might be an issue, but I guess we'll see on that. This is blowing fresh air into there, so we'll see how the thermals work on that. But I'm just kind of torn on this in the sense that, I mean, looking at it up here, maybe I should just bring this back. Everything is just kind of clustered right over there. Probably a 360 would just look good and fill this, but I don't know. Let me move this to the front, and then let me see how it looks. That looks a little bit better. So I just kind of moved it over a little bit so it's not pressed against this way. Not that it was an issue, but it looks a little more filling, and at least my fire connectors over here, they'll be able to come straight out. So a couple of suggestions I've already figured out that I would do different with this, and I'll talk about it at the end of the video. So let's put this together, maybe do a little montage of the final build, and I'll give you my thoughts. she's done. And I gotta say, I really do like this look. This whole side thing going in right over here, just, yeah, pretty cool. I get the whole fish tank look, but it's pretty nice. So I'm happy with it. Building in this case is a couple of things we'll talk about, but let's go over thermals. Now, I am using these Arctic fans. In my opinion, these fans are actually better than the Be Quiet ones that I had on there. They were the only 3 pins, and they were the real cheap, like, value pack ones. So these kind of give it an edge, and that's something to consider. But I'm still using the same fan curve. And let's look at it. My GPU is at 72 degrees Celsius. That's pretty much where it was before. I think it might have been 1 or 2 degrees less when it maxed out. My CPU, 75 degrees Celsius. So it's actually negligible. I think it's like a couple of degrees less. Fans are still quiet. This thing is running great. And these are like extreme tortures as I'm running Cinebench R23 and Furmark, and I've been running this for an hour with this. But considering how much load we're putting on it, definitely doable. So a few things to keep in mind if you're going to build in this case. Number one, either cable extensions or some custom cables would go a long way. So the graphics card cable, I'm using the one that comes with the graphics card, and it's that adapter, I guess the 12 volt PWHR adapter to the 3 PCIe's. If I had a cable extension or the cable mod cable, that cable could actually go all the way into the back. We can clean that up. It would look real nice and clean instead of having that cluster right over there. That was the best way that I could do it without putting stress on the cable. I mean, not that it matters too much, but now also the 24 pin. You see how it's kind of bunched up and kind of gross right over there? Yeah. Like I said, custom cables would look magnificent, would clean this up and really make this thing pop. So if you're going to build in this case, definitely consider getting some custom cables, as it would clean it up. And that's something I'm going to do in the future. And the other thing, like I talked about, the USB 3 cable, I'm actually going to get a not the right angle one, but there's actually one that's actually an extension, so I can actually take it, bring it through the back, and it would clear. I'll be able to put this fan back where it's supposed to be. It would look a lot cleaner and really complement this build. So I'll probably do a follow-up, maybe put in those cables and that extension just to kind of clean this up. But for the most part, the build is pretty good. There are a few things I wish they would have done different. I mean, the rubber grommets, although negligible, I think it would have kind of cleaned it up. But then again, with the graphics card kind of being the focal point, you really can't see what's going on behind there. But that horrible cable mess going on right over here, yeah, that kind of kills it. So now, was it a downgrade going from the Corsair 4000D to the Hyte Y40? I would say no. The temperatures, I mean, are negligible within margin of each other. The case looks great. I think the aesthetic is going to look real nice in the living room. I think it'll complement what we're going for. And not to mention that, I mean, we did put better fans in it, so that is something to consider too. But we have RGB, and RGB is going to give us like 1,000 frames per second, so my computer is going to be like supercharged, so that's great. So before we close this video out, we're doing a giveaway. While at Silver Knights PC the other day, picking up my Arctic fans, hooked me up with this Silver Knights PC RGB gaming mouse pad. Never used one. A lot of people have said that I need to use it with my setup, and I'm glad I did. Started using this. Fantastic. Feels great, durable, good quality. I know my kiddo has messed with this and gotten stuff on it, and it cleans up real easy, which I like. Plus, it has the whole RGB action. I got this one synced up to the color of my fans, so it looks great. And if you don't like that color, you got a whole bunch of different other colors that you can choose from. So if you want to win this, this is what you got to do. Subscribe to the channel, like the video, leave a comment, as we're going to use a random comment generator, and we're going to just choose a comment, and the winner will receive one of these mouse pads. But you got to be subscribed to the channel. Head on over to Silver Knights YouTube channel, definitely give them a sub. Awesome stuff that they're doing over there. And if you really want to pick one of these up and you're not able to win one during this giveaway, go on to Silver Knights PC website. I'll post a link in the description. $24.99 US, and they can mail it right out to you. I really enjoy these mouse pads. Huge shout out to Silver Knights PC for hooking us up with it. Definitely making it a lot easier for a guy to get some builds done. So thanks for watching, and we'll see what we come up with next.